Okay, do you suffer from IBS or leaky gut, maybe another annoying stomach problem? Look, what if there was a way to rebuild your gut? Layer Origin has found a way to do just that, inspired by a component of breast milk called human milk oligosaccharide, or HMO. There are more than 200 HMOs in breast milk, and these help build the infant gut lining, the immune system, and the brain. Hundreds of studies demonstrate HMO's benefits for human development. Now, recently, top manufacturers have begun putting HMOs in baby formula. So the next time you're at the grocery store, just check out the labels. Most of them have a ribbon right on the front that says HMO. Layer Origin Natural Supplements is the first company to create a safe and effective HMO supplement for use by children, teens, and adults. It's called Pure HMO Prebiotic, and it works wonders for your gut. It can boost your immunity and even bolster cognitive function. Now, Layer Origin is offering my listeners an exclusive discount, 15% off Pure HMO Prebiotic at Amazon.com/Layer Origin. Just type in the discount code 15Courtney to save 15% off your order of Pure HMO and get ready to reboot your gut. Welcome to episode 44 of the Financially Free Journey podcast, and I am your host, Courtney Dyer. Well, welcome everybody. This podcast aims to dispel the seemingly complex topic of personal finances, money management, debt, savings, investing, and even retirement. And if you're new here, make sure that you stick around because I take financial topics, I break them down into simple, easy to understand ways so you can make the best money decisions. And thanks for clicking on this episode and joining the show today. We are actually going to be talking all about how to budget an unpredictable income. Now, this topic comes from a string of emails that I've received from several different listeners asking me to cover this topic specifically. Unpredictable income is something that the self-employed, freelancers, and people who work on commission have in common. Unpredictable income right now is also a major concern just due to the nature of our current economy. When you're living on an unpredictable income, it can really feel almost impossible to budget, just given the nature of the ever fluctuating and unpredictable income that you're receiving. Imagine trying to budget your spending and your bills when you don't know how much you're going to make that month, or knowing when you're going to get paid that month, or knowing how much you're going to get paid the following month. This is what it's like trying to plan out bills, savings, and spending with unpredictable income, and it can be very difficult, which is why I chose this topic to cover today, because I know that the tips I'm going to go over will really be helpful for a lot of you guys listening. And with over 80% of working American adults in this exact situation with unpredictable income, and they really don't have a set salary to depend on, this is an issue for a lot of people. Now, budgeting with unpredictable income isn't complex at all. So let's get into some tips to help you budget out your unpredictable income so you feel more financially secure month to month, and you really can have some numbers that you can count on. Okay, so next step, you have now created your bare bones budget, and you're going to need to come up with a list that covers everything else. In your list of discretionary expenses, so this is the next step, is figuring out your discretionary expenses. You should account for things like your cable bill, any money that you regularly spend on entertainment, eating out, things like that. Now, if the expense doesn't have a fixed amount, so for example, you like to get a massage once a month and you know it's $60 every time you go, that's going to be an example of a fixed discretionary expense. But if it's not fixed, like eating out, for example, what you're going to need to do is to review the last few months of bank statements to get an average of what you normally spend in this category. So let's just say, for example, you like to eat out and you're trying to figure out how much you should account for or plan for. You add up all of the takeout that you've ordered over the last 3 months, and then you're going to divide that number by 3 to give you your average that you spend on eating out. This part can be a little time consuming, but getting these numbers right at the beginning is absolutely critical for you creating a strong, accurate budget for irregular income. So don't skip this step and just try to predict or come up with a average that you think you spend, because typically what we think we spend and what we actually spend is extremely different. So take the time to actually review your expenses. Sometimes taking a cold, hard look at spending from previous month's expenses is all it takes to really discover huge, painful leaks in your spending. If you don't like what you see, this is also a great opportunity to adjust your spending habits, but that's going to be a discussion for another time. Let's go into the next step here. So you've come up with your bare bone budget. You've also come up with your discretionary expenses amount. And now you're going to go into really building an emergency fund. So if you even have $1,000 in savings, you're doing better than 70% of American adults. And you're really way ahead of the game. Now, in this step, building up an emergency fund is something that most financial experts and gurus can absolutely agree on. You need to aim to have 3 to 6 months of bare essential expenses saved. So let's say in step 1, your bare essential budget was $2,000 a month. You need to aim to have $6,000 to $12,000 in savings to have a proper emergency fund in place. Many people right now, with over 40 million people being laid off due to COVID, could have used this emergency fund to help them really not fall into these hard financial times that we're seeing while they continue to look for employment and really get back on their feet. Now, I totally understand that it's a lot easier said than done, especially when you don't have any savings to begin with. But this step is critical to budgeting your unpredictable income, and I'll cover that more in just a little bit here. So to come up with a plan, I highly recommend that you consider ways that you can automatically save a percentage of your paycheck each week, or even once a month with an automatic transfer. It makes it out of sight, out of mind. If you're not able to automatically deduct money for savings directly from your paycheck, another idea to consider just to get your nest egg started is selling items that you have and you don't really need, and you can get ahead on starting to build up your nest egg and give yourself a head start on your savings plan. Another thing to consider is any quote unquote extra money that you come across should be put directly into your savings. Things like bonuses you didn't expect, tax refunds, for example. These are items that should be stocked away directly into your savings account. You'll understand why this is important in a minute, but it's sufficient to say that the key to living stress-free on a fluctuating income is really having ample savings. Bad months will come along, absolutely, and when they do, your savings will be there to fill in the gaps and to keep you on track. So let's talk about tip number 4, living on last month's expenses. Now, once you've created your bare bones budget and added up your discretionary expenses, you'll know exactly how much money you need to make it through the month without dipping into savings. So when next month comes along, what you're going to do is just deposit that amount of money that you determined you need into your checking account that you pay your bills out of and you use your debit card with. A tip to making this work and staying on track is initially depositing all of your income into your savings account and then doing one transfer into your checking account at the beginning of the month. Do not continue to dip into your savings throughout the month because that's really going to give you an opportunity to overspend and not stick to your plan. Now, this strategy is also commonly referred to as the zero-sum budget, and this is where every dollar you spend is accounted for. If you are thinking about your money as a living off of last month's income, this really gives you the ability to budget real numbers and not budget off of projections and just wishful thinking. Okay, so we are going to take a quick sponsor break, but when we come back, we're going to continue to talk about the steps that you need to take in order to successfully budget an unpredictable income. So don't go anywhere. As you all know by now, I am passionate about helping you improve your overall financial health and helping you build your confidence and knowledge when it comes to making smart money decisions. The thing is, it all starts with the basics, and what I mean is the budgeting basics. The wealthy have the basics down when it comes to budgeting, and I really want to help you take that next step to building your own wealth. It's time for you to take the information you hear in my podcast and take action. So I created an online, simple to follow and easy to understand course with all of the tools and resources you need to be successful. You're going to learn things like understanding your why, setting smart financial goals, calculating your net worth, diagnosing your spending patterns, how to tackle debt fast, creating multiple streams of income, and you're even going to learn how to calculate exactly how much money you need to be financially free. So make sure that you check out my Budgeting Basics course at www.achieveyourmoneygoals.com. You will be happy you did. Well, welcome back, everybody. Before we took our quick sponsor break, we were discussing the tips or steps that you need to take in order to successfully budget an unpredictable income. So let's continue and let's dive into our next step. So the next step here is to really pay yourself a salary. So think back to tip number 4, previous to our break, where we talked about depositing all of your money into your savings and then only transferring your baseline budget and your discretionary spending total into your checking account. This is the same exact concept as paying yourself a salary. This is a great way to really think about this strategy. You are running your money and you're budgeting like the owner of a company. Not all of the revenues and sales of a company go out in employee paychecks, right? The company has to retain money for other expenses to keep the business running. And this is the same exact concept on a micro level. Now, before you were running your budget and your bills and your spending on a fluctuating income and never really knowing exactly how much you could depend on. But now with making this change, you have now turned your unpredictable income into a more dependable number that you can really count on for your budgeting, your bills, and your spending. With changing to this budgeting strategy, you are now also going to be able to really amp up your savings. So hear me out. You are going to be able to save more because in the past, when you made more money that you hadn't expected, most likely that overage in income was pushed to bills or spending that already happened because you couldn't predict it and you were really trying to dig yourself out of a hole. So where any income overages you had in the past might have just been absorbed by unplanned spending, surplus income should theoretically now start piling up in your savings account from here on out. If it's not, and your money is still draining instead, you need to drastically rethink your bare bones budget and your discretionary spending plan. And the reason why is because you're spending more than you're earning. It's really as simple as that. Step number 6, or the next tip, is really to pay your bills based off of that baseline budget figure that you created at the beginning. So at the first of the month, you should theoretically have the amount of money that you need for bare bone bills plus unnecessary spending in your checking account. And you should have a baseline budget or a spending plan with your monthly expenses and bills listed. Meanwhile, you'll have been depositing your earnings into your regular savings account all along, not your checking account. From here, you'll pay your monthly bills according to the plan that you designed, and that includes paying your savings and any debt repayments, of course. If you want a separate savings account for these long-term savings, now is really a great time to open one. Or you can just simply allocate cash back to your regular savings account each month and watch the money start to pile up. Some people use fancy budgeting software, but this can just simply be done with a pen and paper. The next step here is to really come up with a system to track your bills. So because you have all of your money at the beginning of the month, you are really going to need to come up with a system to help you track your bills being paid and to ensure that you're staying on track with your discretionary spending plan. A tip here is to plan on paying your bills twice a month. So at the first of the month and then again around the 15th. On the 1st, pay all of your bills that are due from the 1st to the 15th, for example, and then on the 15th, pay your bills that are due from the 16th through the end of the month. Another aspect to this is really keeping track of your discretionary spending budget and making sure that you're not going over. Remember, just because the money is in your account, it doesn't mean that you have extra money to spend. There are several systems to help you track your money with different buckets of spending. And really, depending on your self-control level, you may want to consider using the envelope method and keeping all of your discretionary money in separate envelopes and in cash. This method really helps your spending stay on track and helps you avoid overspending. For some reason, we have a harder time parting with physical cash over swiping on plastic, and it makes your spending more real, and you physically see that cash pile getting smaller and smaller in your envelope. Now, at the end of the month, you should have next to nothing in your checking account, and that's how the baseline budgeting or the zero-sum budget method works. If you find yourself penniless at the end of the month and not able to buy groceries, you need to take a serious look at your spending to determine one of two things. Did you overspend, or did you not accurately calculate your spending needs at the beginning of this process? Now, most likely, you way overspend and you need to adjust how you keep yourself accountable to sticking to the budget that you've created for yourself. Okay, so at the end of the month, you have followed this strategy. And if you have followed it, you should have the following. You should have paid yourself a salary based on your expenses on the first of the month. You should have put all of your earnings into savings. You should have paid your bills according to that baseline budget and the zero-sum budgeting method. You should have paid your savings and your debt repayments and finished the month with all of your bills paid and almost nothing in your checking account. Now that that's behind you, it's time to start with the whole process again. In theory, putting your income into savings and paying yourself a salary should take the stress and uncertainty out of your bumpy and unpredictable income. By paying yourself the same amount each month, you're really giving yourself the opportunity to balance out your high income months with your low or your no income months. Remember how we talked about the importance of your savings at the beginning of this episode? Well, your savings is that cushion that's going to help you stay balanced on those months that you truly did not have the income that you had expected, or maybe you were laid off. Now, remember that you're going to need to be open to working out the kinks and really adjusting the numbers and figures that you came up with at the beginning of this process. Typically, it's going to take a few months or adjustments to hit that sweet spot that you'll really be able to feel comfortable with, and it'll be smooth sailing from there. Also, if you're following all of these steps, you should theoretically have extra money that you're going to need to think about a place to put that money in to help you really save for your future. And I'll cover this more in depth in another episode. So I hope that this episode helped you feel more confident in your ability to take control of your finances, even when you feel like there really isn't a way to create a stable financial situation just because of the nature of your income. But before we go, I really want to highlight a listener who took the time to leave a review this last week for the show. So the review says, "Girl, I love your podcast so much. They are the perfect nugget of amazing information that everyone needs. I have learned so much from you, and I cannot wait to learn more." My personal favorite part of this review is that it was titled "The Kick in the Butt That You Need." So thanks, Laura Mooney Pie, for leaving a review. And if you haven't already, please take 30 seconds to just go subscribe, rate, and leave a short review for the show. I really do appreciate the support, guys. Also, if you're not already, make sure that you're following us on Instagram. It's at Financially Free Journey, where you're going to get more tips and motivation to help you with your financially free journey. Until next time. Hey, before you go, have you checked out my online course yet? If you want to eliminate debt, build up income, and know how much money you need exactly to retire, make sure you head over to www.achieveyourmoneygoals.com to take action today.